Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 117-113 win against the Washington Wizards. Ryker, this was we had such an exciting game against the Boston Celtics the other night. This one was the complete opposite in my opinion. It was a very tough game to watch. A lot of foul calls, a lot of missed shots. What were your impressions of this game?
Well, you could call this game Sheck West because it was chippy. Okay, I got two more. You could call this game Gnarls Barkley because Fred VanVleet's shot was crazy.
Ooh.
Or you could call this Kanye West Presents, I don't remember the rest of the album name, because Kyle Lowry said, "I'm the one." A really low-key song. But essentially, yeah, it boiled down to a very interesting, slightly disappointing execution-wise for the Raptors.
Yep.
But I still thought that the back-and-forth nature of the game in the fourth quarter made for, a good watch. But certainly, yeah, you felt that the quality of the game, the amount of turnovers that the Raptors had, different shot selection. But ultimately, I come away saying, thank God for Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, most definitely. That's the first player that we have to talk about because especially in that fourth quarter, he was great the whole game. Kyle Lowry tonight had 28 points and 12 assists, just all-around monster this whole game. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard didn't play as well as DeLon Wright, so we were undermanned, and we really needed Kyle Lowry to step up, as he's been phenomenal this whole season. But tonight, in the clutch, he just hit a shot every single time we needed it. He had some clutch charges and almost had more, but his foot was inside the charge circle for one of those last possessions on John Wall. What were your thoughts on Kyle Lowry, especially in the fourth quarter of this game?
Yeah, he just looked so incredibly confident out there. Mm-hmm. He was the one person that really seemed to understand how to properly... I mean, this makes sense, but he was the one person that understood how to properly run an offense when the game is tight, right? Especially when a team is coming back. Not just to run the offense, but how to play properly on defense, because you're right, he took the charge. He immediately then responds, hits a three-pointer. He has two good drives against Kelly Oubre that he finishes the layup with some contact. He did all the things properly. What I'm disappointed with is that, of course, you have an 11-point lead with about 5 minutes left. You don't want to go crazy and push the pace so that you're allowing, needless opportunities for the other team to get back into the game. But I still think that waiting every possession until the last 7 to 4 seconds before the play starts, and now I'm referencing to Danny Green, Fred VanVleet, while overall they had decent games, I think that Kyle Lowry was really the only player that was trying to make things happen, execution-wise on offense.
Yeah, that's 100% fair. Tonight gave a lot of flashbacks to last season when the Toronto Raptors would be very strong the whole game, even though it wasn't necessarily the best game for the Raptors the first three quarters. But nonetheless, they had control at some point in the fourth quarter, and then they started playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And you mentioned it, slowing the pace, not doing too much. And luckily for us tonight, Kyle Lowry gave us the kick that we needed. But it gave me flashbacks that we didn't see in that Boston Celtics game with Kawhi Leonard playing. I'm sure it would have been a different sight if Kawhi was in this game, but that's just the feeling it reminded me of. But luckily we came out with the win. It was a scrappy win. It looked like a game in mid-October where people aren't hitting shots, aren't hitting anything. But Kyle Lowry, once again, it looked like he was back in his 2016 form. We've been talking about it, because last year he was still great at shooting the threes, but he didn't drive too much. He didn't really take control of the scoring load, and he kind of left that for DeMar. But now it seems as if he's driving more, even when Kawhi Leonard's playing. He's driving, he's going for that mid that he's so good at, and it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see Kyle
This
Lowry.
game he had to. This game he had to be the number one player on the team because with the absence of Kawhi Leonard, he is. We saw, on the technical free throws, Kyle Lowry is the one that shoots the free throws now. Usually, in the past seasons, that would always be DeMar DeRozan. So this is the first time in a while that we've seen Kyle Lowry be the number one option. And I think he really rose to the occasion, and it was good to see. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. One, how incredible was Bradley Beal? right? We certainly aren't the biggest fans of Washington.
Yep.
You know, we have a quarrel with all of the good Eastern Conference teams because they're always rated higher than the Raptors.
Yep.
But, you know, you need to give respect where respect is due. And Bradley Beal, and this is what I'll get your commentary on, was, you know, the chippiness and all the technical the technical, you know, fouls called, maybe the missed calls by the referees. Bradley Beal then took it upon himself and responded in a big way. He's a good player, man.
Mm-hmm.
He really balled hard tonight, and I was impressed with how well he responded after getting teed up.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you know, I'm not the biggest, not Bradley Beal's game, just Bradley Beal the players. It seems like whenever he plays the Toronto Raptors, he goes off in some fashion like this. And you know, he's an incredible player once he gets cooking, once he's motivated. Whenever he clicks, it seems as if he can score from anywhere on the court, and it's a scary sight to see. And luckily enough that we have some lockdown guys, and we're able to contain him a little bit after he went on that very hot spell. But that's the really surprising thing about me when I watch the Wizards play. They have so much talent, especially in John Wall, Bradley Beal, and Otto Porter's a good player. You know, they have obviously they're a bit undermanned with Dwight Howard out and these guys, but Bradley Beal and John Wall look like they should just take over games. And, you know, you look at the box score, and they do, and you look at stretches of the game, and they look unstoppable. But it seems for most of the game, nothing really clicks in the sense that they aren't in takeover mode. But I'm surprised they don't.
They had their mind on takeover mode. A couple plays that I'll point out. Mm-hmm. They were swarmed every time they attacked because they knew that's the Raptors. Thankfully, I thought played a very good defensive game.
As always.
Right? And every time Bradley Beal and John Wall, and this is the reason that they were so frustrated, is because there was so much pressure put on them when they were taking layups, right? It was always contested. And I don't think there was necessarily that many fouls. I think there was just really good on ball, you know, trying to contest the finishes. And there was a couple of times when Kyle Lowry stepped up, he knew exactly what was going to happen. This is what I think the downfall of John Wall and Bradley Beal is that they don't rely on the other players enough. Yep. Kyle Lowry knew twice what the play was going to end up being. Fred VanVleet at the end knew exactly what was going to happen because John Wall tried to make the same play twice. He did he got away with it once, sprinted from end zone or baseline to baseline, and finished it with the foul. But then that play with 7 seconds left, Fred VanVleet knew exactly where he was going, cut him off. Right? Yep. The reason that they can't take over games is because I think they're running that same storybook every time. It's just like the Raptors in the playoffs of seasons past. Mm-hmm. Every team knows exactly what the Raptors are going to go to when the game is, you know, in the final minutes, and it's the same story with the Washington Wizards. Is everybody knows what John Wall wants to do and what Bradley Beal wants to do.
Yeah, that's 100% fair because they're a very talented team, and they're a scary team on paper, right? If they can put it all together and, you know, maybe trust their teammates as we've mentioned, or just be in that mindset to really be all over the game and take over and trust their teammates, I think they could be a really scary team in the East, but they never really seem to actually put it together. It might be coaching, it might be just the personnel. We don't really know, but the Wizards are good. We got to give them credit. But another player I want to give credit, and it's someone that we have flamed mostly last season, a guy that we've been a bit tough on, Serge Ibaka. Tonight, he looked pretty solid again for back-to-back games.
Yeah, it's certainly true. He was active on the offensive rebound, which was the biggest thing. Yeah. I mean, him and Pascal Siakam did fantastic in putting pressure on a smaller Washington Wizards lineup.
Most definitely.
And a couple of really big plays came from them getting offensive rebounds. So one, that is always good, and it's a defensive thing. It's a defensive mindset. When you play hard on defense, when you play hard in the things off the ball, that's when, you know, you really get the most productivity and confidence out of a player. And he again stayed within his means. Mm-hmm. He was taking that elbow shot consistently. That's where he wanted to shoot from. And when that's in his mind, I think Serge Ibaka is a good player. Mm-hmm. He really is a good piece for the Raptors team.
Yeah, 16 points and 9 rebounds for Serge tonight. If he misses a couple shots every here and there that make you cringe, and that's something that frustrated us last year. But instead of, you know, once he misses a couple, settling for a 3 the next possession, this year it seems he's just going right back in the paint, being aggressive, you know, ready to catch those lobs, get those rebounds as you mentioned, and if he just stays with this energy, right? I don't care about the little bunnies he misses every now and then, because he was 4 for 10 from the field tonight, 8 for 10 from the free throw line, which was very nice. But if he just stays in his mind, focused, ready to go, taking shots in the paint, he's going to be such a valuable piece for us. And, Jonas Valanciunas had a very strong game tonight as well. 16 points, 7 rebounds. If you watch the game, he did look a bit lethargic and didn't seem too focused at times, but nonetheless, he still played pretty well against Jan Mahimi of the Washington Wizards, their center. But who, after the first 3 games, Ryker, that you've seen, what are your impressions on the JV Serge Ibaka center position switching, the Nick Nurse fluid starting lineups and stuff? Who has, caught your eye more?
Interesting question. I think really it's good to separate the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right? To not run them at the same time. And this is what we talked about a lot last season, was that separate them. They're both individually good players, right? But it seems like the tandem doesn't work quite as well.
Yep. Yeah, they're both two centers.
They're both 2 centers.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think Nick Nurse is doing, only the 3rd match of the season, but what I think he's doing is staying true to what he said he was going to do and trying different rotations just to see what works, and then also trying different rotations to really do the best matchups. I think if Dwight Howard was in this game today, we would have saw more of Jonas Valanciunas, and he probably would have had even bigger numbers. But I'm not doubting the system, and I think it's too early to doubt the system until, there hasn't even been a loss yet, so it's hard to critique. I think they're both, as long as their confidence stays up like it has been, and they're fine with understanding that different nights will entail different minutes, I think it's really, really good what Nick Nurse is doing. I think it's also worth it to mention that this is now 3 big Eastern Conference rivals. Of course, now with the absence of LeBron, we can't even really say that the Cleveland Cavaliers are the rival of the Toronto Raptors, but this is 3 teams that really the Raptors have been competing against for the last 3-4 seasons, and they've defeated them all now. So I'm feeling pretty positive about that. Let's swing it before we have any more conversation. For the people that are still tuned in, let's come into the segments. Start us off.
Most definitely. So tonight we're going to start off with why you do him like that play of the day. We didn't have Kawhi on the court tonight, but we still got to say Kawhi you do him like that. And, there's many plays that we could have taken from Kyle Lowry, those crazy fadeaways and all that. But the play that made you say Kawhi you do him like that is Fred VanVleet getting it was a hectic play at the end of the game. Raptors up 2 with about 15 seconds left. I'm not sure if the time is completely accurate on that, but if we got a bucket, it would have iced the game. And we drew up an inbound play. The pass got tipped. Fred VanVleet caught the ball in a hectic position, shot a fadeaway leaner, one-hand shot from the mid-range, and put it in, iced the game. Man, Fred VanVleet, when the game matters, when you need Fred to get a bucket, if he doesn't have a shoulder injury like he did in the playoffs, he's going to get you that bucket.
Yeah, Freddie Van Buckets.
Yeah.
I was grasping my hair at the moment. Still had a bit of seconds left on the shot clock.
Yep.
It seemed. I don't think he realized that, but regardless, outcome was good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how he made the shot,
Yep.
And the reaction of the bench, the Washington bench, of course, was hilarious.
Yeah.
But as you can expect, to see a shot like that, even if it was nothing on the line, you still would be shaking your head.
Shout out to Fred though. Shout out, because there's a possession in the 4th quarter where he missed a layup and then he missed the technical foul free throw. And then literally the next possession he has the confidence to pull up from 3 feet behind the 3-point line and splash a 3. He hits those clutch free throws after being tough from the free throw line this year. I believe he was 4 for 9 going up to the free throw line for the season at that point. So I love Fred's confidence, but not all plays can be the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. And some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the oh, geez play of the day. It hurts me. Pretty boy Kelly Oubre came in. There's a putback dunk. Siakam looked like he was getting the rebound, and Kelly Oubre comes up and absolutely posters the man. And I looked at the TV, and I said, oh, geez, Ryker.
Yeah. He put it in with intensity.
Yeah.
A pretty dunk from a pretty man, I guess. And he jumped all over Siakam, which was the worst part.
Yep.
But thankfully, it didn't swing completely the momentum of the game.
Thank God. That would have hurt.
Thank God. it would have hurt both of our souls.
Yep.
So as to not dig the wound any deeper, the final segment piece, the DeMarre Carroll subject for change. Have we changed it yet, or is it still the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star for the worst performance of the game?
And tonight,
subject for change.
Yep. But
tonight, who are you giving it to?
And tonight, it's going to the referees, not for their calls against the Toronto Raptors. We're not complaining that the refs unfairly had unfair bias against the Raptors. We're not saying that. We're saying both ways for both teams, especially at the start of the second half. It seemed as if there was a whistle every single possession for the third quarter. That's what it felt like watching as a fan. And there's been some rules implemented by the league that they're trying to get more crackdown on off-ball plays. Jack mentioned it in the broadcast. I talked about it in the preseason. It was even worse in the preseason, but it really hurt the flow of the game during the middle. Obviously it was ugly basketball on top of it, but the refs blowing their whistle every possession, you just got to let some stuff go if it's killing the flow of the game. That's my opinion on it. Even if it's a light, chippy foul, you're just fouling out good players and ruining the momentum and stuff of the game just for a little love tap, 20 feet away from the ball. That's my take on it. Hurt me to watch.
On the contrary, I think the referees could have been more stern
during the middle of the game.
I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying that as a fan, as a person who's watching the game, of course, you don't want the action to be stopped. You want to allow the players to run continuously. But I think that there becomes a point where if you become lenient with one call, right, then you're expected then to become lenient partially, right? Yeah. For the other team, right? It's not non-biased. It's very biased. So if they let one call slip, then they try to let a similar call slip on the other side. I think it's best to do exactly what the reason for the new implementation of the rules is to make sure that no team is getting away with anything silly. Now, of course, this game happened to become less about basketball and more about, I think, the emotions and complaining, and I certainly hate when all that happens. But for me, the biggest L of the game was Danny Green making me contradict myself from last podcast, saying this guy, he's coming off 2 seasons of poor performance, and now finally, he's probably going to be on solid footing, make 3-pointers, and has a 1 for 8 3-point performance, 1 for 9 on the game, 11% shooting. I think, of course, your argument is he still played in a way such that you think it wasn't horrible because of his defense, but I think we can't just have a defensive guy. We need a person who can make shots when he's on the floor in the league.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but Danny Green, you mentioned it, you were really disappointed in his game tonight. Obviously, he went 1 for 8 from the 3-point line, but the reason I'm not shook about what I saw from Danny Green, that I occasionally am when I see from CJ Miles, is Danny Green didn't lose confidence at any point in this game, and he was a continuous threat from the 3-point line at all night, just even though the shot wasn't going in. The defender still guarded him, and as you mentioned, he's always going to bring it on the defensive end. He can still dribble, he can still pass and play throughout the flow of the offense. Obviously, the shots aren't going to go in every night, and he's been phenomenal all preseason and this season, the first 2 games of this year, and obviously the shots will get better. He won't shoot 1 for 8 every night, but the fact that he didn't lose confidence and he was still taking the shots he should be taking, I was fine with this performance. I wouldn't, in my opinion, give him the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star.
Fair enough. A point of contradiction. All right, let's not keep it too long. Let's wrap it up here. Final thoughts.
Ugly game, but big W for the Toronto Raptors. Great win. We're still undefeated. We're still on pace for 82-0, Ryker. Are we getting it?
Of course.
Anyways.
Is that even a question?
Anyways, let us know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the game? Are you happy with how the Toronto Raptors played without Kawhi and DeLon Wright? What are your thoughts on the whole season in general? Let us know in the comment section below. Check us out on Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. You're the best for listening this far.
Cheers.